Week 8 of the college football season. My name is Mike Browning. I'm the host of the College Football Road Trip at cfbroadtrip.com. I'm coming to you this week from Annapolis, Maryland, where I will be going to this weekend's Air Force at Navy football game. That should be a lot of fun. I'm going to be checking out a lot of things both in Baltimore and Annapolis over the next couple days. So I'm really excited to get out and about in the towns and see what they have going on. In the meantime, we have quite a few decent ranked versus ranked matchups that we'll get to at the end of this week's picks, and of course, picking this weekend's game that I will be at. So let's go ahead and jump into this week's picks, and we're going to start off with some action out of the MAC conference. We have Toledo traveling to Miami of Ohio. These are two teams that are leading the MAC. They both are looking pretty good so far. The MAC as a whole has not been great, but these two teams have been up there. I believe both of them only have one loss on the season. So it's going to be interesting to see which one of these is going to be able to come out there and have the leg up going into the MAC conference championship game at the end of the year. Things continue to go the way of the winner's way. Toledo is a team that's looked pretty good. Recently, they've made it to the championship game in the past. Miami is a team that really hasn't been at this level for quite a while, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can step up to the competition in this game. Since Toledo has been in this position before, I'm going to give them the edge in this game. I have Toledo winning on the road at Miami of Ohio. Next, let's head to a couple of Big 12 games. Our first one is a rematch of last year's Big 12 championship game. We have TCU traveling to Kansas State. Obviously, both of these teams were great last year. Struggled a little bit so far this year. TCU obviously had their opening loss to Colorado. They have another loss going in as well. Kansas State, they lost to Missouri. They lost last week to Oklahoma State. They didn't look great in that game either. The question is, which one of these teams wants to win this game? Neither one of them are totally out of the conference race yet, but whoever loses this game definitely will be. Kansas State is the home team in this one, so I'm going to give them the slight edge. I have Kansas State winning at home over TCU. Staying in the Big 12, Oklahoma State traveling to West Virginia. Obviously, West Virginia has been the surprise so far this year until they had the Hail Mary loss to Houston last week. They gave them their first conference loss. Oklahoma State is a team that was written off early in the year after their loss to South Alabama, but they had a couple big wins over the past couple of weeks, and they're right back in the conference championship conversation as well if OU or Texas happen to slip up along the way. So obviously Oklahoma State is on an upward projection. West Virginia has been trending downward. So because Oklahoma State has that upward projection, I'm going to go ahead and pick them in this one as well. Oklahoma State winning on the road at West Virginia. Next, let's head down to the ACC. We have Clemson traveling to Miami. Miami obviously has a couple of big losses over the last couple of weeks. They had the big loss to Georgia Tech, and then last week, North Carolina just handled them pretty easily. Clemson also has not had the best season so far. They're not ranked, which is pretty surprising this late in the season to not see Clemson in the top 25. Clemson has a lot of big competition ahead. The question is, are they going to overlook Miami to do that? I don't think they will. Dabo Swinney usually has his team up, even if they're not at the top level that they've been over the past few years. They're still a good football team, and they will win this week, moving Miami's losing streak to 3. I have Clemson winning on the road at Miami in ACC play. Next, let's move over to the West Coast and the Pac-12 for our next couple games. Our first one is Washington State traveling to 9th-ranked Oregon. Obviously, the big game of last weekend was the Oregon at Washington game. That was an amazing game that went down to the end. Washington ended up pulling out the win in the end. But obviously, Oregon didn't fall that far. They're still in the top 10, even though they lost last week. Washington State has not looked very good over the last couple of weeks. They were a ranked team. They've struggled. They really got blown out last week. Oregon's going to want to come out and fight. They want to get back to that Pac-12 championship and hopefully face Washington again, assuming Washington also makes it. So Oregon's going to run away with this one. I don't think it's going to be close. I have Oregon winning at home over Washington State in Pac-12 play. Staying in the Pac-12, we have 19th ranked Utah traveling to 18th ranked USC. Obviously, the game last week, USC getting blown out by Notre Dame. Their defense just continues to look horrible. And then on top of that, Caleb Williams struggled last week, which means their offense struggled, and Notre Dame was able to pull away in the second half. You have a Utah team. The question is Cam Rising going to come back this week? Utah has struggled on the offensive side of the ball. If Cam Rising's able to come back, that's going to give them a boost in that department. And Utah's defense is really strong. So I think that Utah actually has an edge in this one, even though they're the away team. USC has just been struggling. Even the games they've won, they probably shouldn't have won along the way. I have Utah winning on the road at USC. Next, ranked versus ranked matchup out of the SEC. We have 17th ranked Tennessee traveling to 11th ranked Alabama. This was obviously a big game last year when Tennessee came away with the win. But this year they're having to go on the road. Alabama, as I mentioned, has looked a little bit better towards the middle of the season than they did at the beginning. They did let Arkansas back in the game towards the end last week, but they still looked pretty good, at least in the first half of that one. Tennessee has looked pretty good. They struggled at the beginning of the year as well. They're starting to look a little bit better. I think Alabama is going to come out trying to get revenge for their loss last year. Plus, they're playing this at home. That's going to give them the edge. I have Alabama winning at home over Tennessee in SEC play. Moving back to the ACC now, we have 16th ranked Duke traveling to 4th ranked Florida State. Obviously, Florida State is undefeated on the season. They're in the driver's seat for the ACC at this point. Duke has looked pretty good along the way. They do have the loss against Notre Dame. That was a very close game that went down to the wire. They came back and looked really good against NC State last week. But Florida State has something to play for. They definitely want to be in that national championship conversation to try to make it to the playoff. They need to win a game like this to show that they deserve to be there. Being at home, I think, again, that gives them the edge to allow them to be able to pull away with the win at 4th ranked Florida State winning at home over Duke. Next, probably the biggest game of the week is going to come out of the Big Ten. We have 7th ranked Penn State traveling to 3rd ranked Ohio State. This is a huge game in the Big Ten East. You have Michigan, you have Ohio State, you have Penn State, all right there, all undefeated, all having to play each other before the end of the season. And this is the first of those 3 games. The question is always around Penn State. Are they going to be able to take a next step to move to the top echelon of the Big Ten East? Until they can actually pull out one of these wins, I'm always going to give the edge to Michigan or Ohio State in this one, especially being played in Columbus. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to go to the second half. I think Ohio State's going to find a way to pull it out in the fourth quarter. I have Ohio State in this one. Ohio State winning at home over Penn State in Big Ten play. And then our final game of the week, the game that I will be attending. I'm really excited for this one, a military versus military matchup. In Annapolis, Maryland, we have Air Force, which is ranked 22nd currently, traveling to Navy here in Annapolis. Air Force has looked dominant so far this year. They had a big win against Wyoming last week in the Mountain West Conference. I think they're on pace to easily make it to the Mountain West championship game at the end of the year. Navy's a team that did have a 14-0 win last week. So they're starting to put a little bit together, but they just don't have it all figured out yet, and Air Force does, and because of that, that's going to give Air Force the edge. I think it'll be close in the first half. Air Force will pull away in the second. I have Air Force winning on the road at Navy. So that's the game that I will be at this week. There's a decent chance of rain. Let's hope it stays dry enough so I don't have to pull out the poncho like I seem to have to do at least one game every year I go to. But I'm really excited to be here in Maryland this week. Again, go check out the games. I'll be posting some stuff on Instagram as we go along, so feel free to go and check that out of the things I do here in town. Go enjoy the Week 8 games, everyone. We will talk to all of you again next week.